Okay, so today we're taking our ceramic notes, and I already passed out the worksheet to you. You can find it in the PowerSchool weekly agenda document on Google Classroom. But let's get into on that worksheet. Number one, it says, match the number to the tool and label the following tools correctly. So for number one, that is a ribbon or a loop tool. Okay. The reason we call it a ribbon or a loop tool is you'll notice right at the top of the tool, there's a ribbon or a loop. Okay, that ribbon or loop is why we call it a ribbon or loop tool. So the uses for this will be on the left-hand side. So we remove large or small amounts of clay with this. We add details, and we trim our wheel-thrown projects with this tool. I'm going to be honest, guys, a lot of the tools that we use do those three functions. Okay, so it's just finding the right tool that works best for you when you're working with your project. Okay, for number two, okay, and that's called a wire cutter. So a wire cutter is a tool that I'm actually going to use more so just because it's a teacher tool. I've just seen students kind of either cut their hands or they accidentally aren't using it properly. So that's going to be a tool that you can come ask me for if you need it. But you can easily cut a large piece of clay into smaller pieces. You can cut the clay project off of the wheel in the wheel throwing process. I know some of you are kind of looking at me. For your assessment, I'm just going to be assessing you on whether or not you can identify the tool. I'm not necessarily going to be assessing you on whether or not you know how to use it. So when you're writing these down, if you want to write down the uses, you absolutely can, but you don't necessarily have to. Okay, so as you're filling this in. For the third one, number three, it's a metal scraper. And our metal scrapers actually look a little bit different. They actually have these little teeth on the edges of them. We're going to use that for when we go to attach clay together. It works really good for scoring, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But we use it to smooth and shape. Again, we use it to trim on the wheel. Okay, so that's called a scraper, or you could say metal scraper. You could write that down. Okay, number four, that's a modeling tool. Okay, and our modeling tools actually look like several different shapes and sizes, and just the uses for them are endless. Okay, so that's another example. I have one that looks like that too on the screen. So we use it to cut clay, we use it to smooth and shape the edges, and again, we use it to trim up our wheel thrown projects. So again, it's just another tool that we can use to move the clay. And the next one is a needle tool. So this is one that you're going to have to kind of check out from me. I'm going to have it up on my desk. They look like this, and to be honest, these are cocktail skewers, so they are a little bit cheaper than buying a needle tool, but you would use this to create fine detail. You're going to be writing your name on the bottom of your project, so you would use a needle tool to do that. Works best. You can also poke holes to release trapped air, because if we think about when we trap air and then we heat it up, what does the air do? It expands, which would cause an explosion in the kiln if we haven't properly released that air. So you can use it. Say you made like a sphere on part of your project that is hollow on the inside, it has air on the inside. You can then poke little holes into it to let the air release out. Okay. Again, you can use it for trimming, and then you can use it also to determine clay thickness. Some students will like poke it down into the clay, measure with their finger, and then go, oh, my clay is like 1/2 inch thick. Okay, so you can use it for that. The potter's rib. Potter's ribs generally look like this photo, but ours do not. They look more like this. They're a little piece of plastic that kind of look like a scraper, but it's made out of plastic. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of these, mainly because they're just really stiff. And it's kind of nice if they're a little bit more flexible. I think the sponge works a little bit better, or the modeling tool works a little bit better than these, but you're welcome to use them, okay? So that's called a potter's rib. Okay. The next one is a sponge. I mean, I would assume that you guys could probably all identify SpongeBob up there on a quiz. So we use it to smooth and shape. But the big one is that we use a damp sponge that can be used to smooth cracks in clay. So if you start to notice that your clay is drying out too quickly, you can use a damp sponge and kind of re-soak it and re-wet it down so it's workable. Okay, so those are the tools that we're going to be working with. There are some specialty tools that we'll kind of talk more about, but those are the ones that I'm going to assess you on, or that you should know by the time you leave 7th grade. Okay. Now let's get into clay construction. So clay construction really can be boiled down into 3 techniques. I know I have 4 or 6 of them on that worksheet, okay, but they can really be summed up into those 3. And then the 4th one, wheel throwing, is kind of an advanced option for you. So let's just kind of dive into each one of these. I'm going to hold off on the videos until tomorrow. But for our first one is the coil construction. You guys probably have seen this in elementary school a little bit. or maybe you saw it downtown. I know they generally do this in some of their classes. So you can make coil pots with the coil construction. You can create handles for mugs, or you can create decorative details. Like I've seen students put like a little dragon on an egg. The dragon is made out of a coil. But I would say that these coil pots are definitely more of a 7th grade level than maybe some of the ones that you've made in elementary school. There's a braid in here, there's a twist. It's done very, very well. So this could be an option for you when you go to do your assignment. Again, I'm going to come back and do these 2 videos tomorrow. We'll use them more as a review. Okay, the second one is slab construction. So we can think about the uses for this. You can make boxes, bowls, tiles. You can add decorative details with them, or you can cut out patterns from clay. So I think a lot of students, when they think about like making a mug, they either think about doing wheel throwing for it, or they maybe forget that you can make a mug out of a circle and a rectangle in slabs, and then piece them together to make a cup. Okay, so a slab is basically just that. You're going to be rolling out a very flat slab of clay, cutting out the pieces that you need, and assembling it together. So some students in the past have built letters and then added details like on the front here. These are actually cut slabs, shapes of the waves, and then they're kind of moved into a free form by adding those textures to make it look more realistic like waves, okay? Over here, this is just kind of your traditional box, except it has a really cool lip edge on it. So I would maybe encourage some of you, if you're going to do a lid, think about how you can design the lid so it stays on correctly or accurately. So we'll come back to these. One is how to make a box. The other one is how to make a cylinder. This is my version of how to make a box. You can actually see the tools that you guys will be using. So if you're thinking about doing a box container, you could do that. The third construction technique is pinch pot. Many of you maybe explored this in elementary school as well. So essentially you have a clay sphere, you stick your thumb down in it and you squeeze around and you pinch the walls. Okay. So we can make bowls, spheres, boxes. You can add decorative details. So I kind of shared with you guys the dragon on the egg. Okay. The dragon is made out of coils and some free form here. And then we just took 2 pinch pots and push them together to make the egg. Okay, so if I were to look at this egg down here, I could cut it in half and I'd probably find 2 pinch pots, okay, or 2 pinch bowls. And you'd also, I think some students get so wrapped up in that the pinch pots have to be perfect that I share this example with you, because you can get a really nice design even if it's kind of like lopsided on one side. Okay, so long as it's kind of an aesthetic part of your project, you could do something like that. Okay, or you could squish it on one side and make it, a little fish container or something like that. Okay, and this is yet another video. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, so now let's talk about wheel thrown. Again, this is a completely optional technique or process for those of you that would like to try it. If you would like to try it, we'll start it on Thursday, but I'm going to just go in alphabetical order down my list. So you'll just let me know yay or nay if you want to do it. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with wheel throwing. You can make bowls, spheres, vases, plates. You can make lids for your project. So maybe you do a pinch pot for the base for a bowl, and then you make the lid on wheel thrown. You could do that. You can make goblet bases. So if you wanted to make like a goblet cup, you could do that. Or pedestals. So down here in this bottom corner, I have kind of a chip and dip bowl. So you can make a little wide bowl, and then you can make a little mini bowl inside of it. There's a lot of different shapes of vases that you could do, and or you could think about carving out of the wheel thrown bowl to add just a unique feature. Okay? I had some students in the past make like cookie containers for their projects. So they had like the cup on the top and then the cookies underneath. Okay, so things to think about. And this is me demonstrating wheel throwing, but we'll cover that tomorrow. So there's 2 more construction techniques that you have on your sheet. I wrote them up here on the whiteboard. So the first one is called a drape mold. Okay, a drape mold essentially means that I would take like this bucket per se, and I would roll out a slab of clay. Okay, and then I would take that slab of clay and I could drape it over the top of this bowl, like many of you did with your toilet paper sculptures. I could smooth it around into the shape that I want, cut off all the extra. Okay, then I could kind of let it dry and then pop my bowl out and have a bowl shape piece of clay. Okay, so drape mold essentially means that you're using a mold of some kind and draping it into that. Okay, I've also seen students make like coil pots by just taking a bowl and making the coils on the inside to make the shape of the bowl. Okay. The second one is freeform. So when we were kind of looking at that dragon, okay, the dragon details would be more like what we talk about freeform. You're just free-forming the clay. If you were to ever play with Play-Doh when you were little, okay, when you formed a little strawberry, you formed whatever shape, that would be what freeforming is. Okay, I will tell you guys that drape mold and freeform, again, they're very much like the three main ones that I talked to you about, because essentially you're taking a slab to do the drape mold, right? And with freeform, you're using a lot of coil techniques with that. So that's why I do add those two in there, but consider that when you go to build your project that maybe you need something a little bit different, which would be the drape mold or the freeform. Okay, so now we're on to how to join clay. So there's 4 steps, and I would say this is the most important, lesson that I could teach you today is this slide. Okay, if you do not do this correctly, your project could fall apart. It could explode in the kiln. It could just turn out not how you want it to turn out. So how we attach pieces of clay together or how we join clay is called score, slip, blend, and smooth. I'm going to just play this quick video for you guys because she does a nice job, but I'm going to actually voice over her video, mainly because I don't like the vocabulary that she uses, but here we go. Let's see if I can. Okay, so she's going to talk about the basic clay techniques. We use scoring first, then slipping, blending, and smoothing. So she's going to attach these 2 pieces of clay together. So the first thing that she's going to do is she uses her needle tool and she's going to cut out a basic shape or a piece that she's going to attach to that other second piece of clay. It's going to kind of smooth it out just a little bit. And in order to attach the clay, she has to score first. So scoring means just scratching up the surface of both where you're going to attach to and what you're attaching. Okay. Then you take slip, which is basically watered down clay or water, okay, straight up water, and you're using that as like the pottery glue to stick the 2 pieces together. Okay. Then the next step is blending. So you're taking a modeling tool or your finger and you're mushing or blending the 2 pieces of clay together so they're actually welded together. Okay. After that, then you take your finger and like you see her doing, she's now smoothing it out. And that's the last step in case you don't want a seam there. Okay. She's going to do it again. So scoring is the scratching. Slip is the like wet clay or water. Okay. And then blending is attaching the 2 pieces together or welding them. And then smoothing is just making sure that it looks smooth and not rough if that's the intention. Okay. Does it again. Score, slip, smooth, blend, and then smooth. Okay. Questions about this process? Okay, wonderful. So now let's scoot back to our stages of clay. So for our stages of clay, I know that's a little bit tricky to see. Let's see if I can do it this way for you guys. Okay, so the first stage is what we just used in order to attach our clay. It's slip. So slip, for number 1 there where it says, what are the stages of clay? Number 1, you're going to write slip. And then where it says describe the clay at each stage, that's where I want you to write down that it's watered down clay that can be used as pottery glue. If you want to shorten that, you could write watered clay equals pottery glue. Okay, that would be one way that you could shorten it. Okay. Or water plus clay equals pottery glue. Okay. Number 2, okay, I want you to put 2 things down. It's called plastic, that's the technical term, but I'm probably just going to call it wet clay. Okay, so it's known as wet or plastic clay. So for number 2, please put wet or plastic. Okay, and that's what you guys think of when you think of clay. It's the clay that you can easily mold or model. Okay, so when you think of Play-Doh, that's wet or plastic stage. Okay. Number 3, okay, that's leather hard. That's clay that is somewhat dry. It's good for carving. The best way that I can explain leather hard to students is thinking about like a very just slightly melted Hershey bar. Like you can bend it, right? But if you bend it too fast or too quick, it'll snap off, right? Okay. And if it's too melted, then it's just liquid, right? So it's kind of that barely melted Hershey bar or candy bar that kind of just bends slightly. Okay, that's what leather hard is like. Okay, good for carving. Stage 4, okay, this is bone dry is what it's called. Okay, and the clay projects that are actually right up here on my front table, those are bone dry. So they are clay that is dry and ready to be fired. It is very fragile. Okay, so what I really want you to put for bone dry in nice big capital letters is the word fragile. Okay, so for bone dry, make sure you write in capital letters the word fragile. Okay. This is generally the stage where I always get really nervous for students because they go to try and pick up their project by either the handle or they pick it up too quickly. If you were ever a little kid and you made mud pies and you picked up your mud pie too fast after it dried, it like crumbled in your hand. Okay, that's what's going to happen to your project if you're not careful with it. Okay. Stage 5 is bisqueware. Okay. Bisqueware is clay that has been fired once in the kiln and can never be turned back into wet clay. So the term fire you could equate to cook. I'm going to cook it in, we could say the oven, but the oven is called a kiln. Okay, so I'm going to fire it in the kiln is the technical terms, or you could think of it as I'm going to cook it in the oven. Okay. My kiln is in that back far room, and I'll take you guys in there to do a little exploration here, most likely tomorrow. But then class, it's very important to me for safety reasons that you are not allowed in there whenever you see that red sign up. Because that means that the kiln is hot, and I really don't want students to get hurt back there. So it will get up to about 2,000 degrees. Yes, you can get burns off of the front plate if you touch it. So as we get into those safety procedures tomorrow, we'll talk about there are going to be times that I let students go in there, but you need my permission. If I just see you going in there without my permission, okay, that's going to be kind of a huge safety violation. And I might tell you just to take a breather in the office for the day and then come back ready to work tomorrow. Okay, so we just have to be really careful back there with that. Okay, so that's bisqueware is it's clay that's been fired once in the kiln and it can never be turned back into wet clay. Then what happens after the bisqueware? It comes out and it's this beautiful like white project, and then or hard project. We actually glaze it. Okay, I want you to think of your projects like donuts. You have to glaze it or paint it. Okay, glaze and paint are very different things, so that's why I kind of shy away from calling it painting it. Okay. But you're going to glaze it, and then I'm going to cook it a second time, which creates glazeware. So glazeware is clay that has been fired again with glaze. It makes it nice and shiny and pretty. Unless you have like a matte glaze or you have a metallic glaze, then it just kind of seals it and makes it waterproof. Okay, so those are your 6 stages. I think that's the hardest thing for students to maybe remember. So we just have this very fast video to just review it. And this one actually doesn't have any sound to it, so here we go. Let's review our stages of clay. So there are many stages of clay or steps that our clay will go through before it looks like this, a finished product, right? So we'll go over our 6 stages. The first one is slip. Second one is plastic. Third one is leather hard. 4 is bone dry. 5 is bisque or bisqueware. And then 6 is glazeware. So let's break it down. Okay, so stage 1 is slip. It's basically slip is clay suspended in water. Okay, the best kind of slip I think looks kind of like peanut butter in a jar. Okay, it's kind of sticky, and that works good. But straight up water also works. Okay, stage 2, this is plastic or wet. It's workable clay. It's strong enough to hold its shape, but flexible enough to bend without breaking. Okay. Stage 3 is leather hard. So this is drying clay that still has some flexibility, but it will crack when bent, but not break. Okay, it's kind of that liquid Hershey bar, right? Or that slightly melted Hershey bar. It's really, really good for carving. So if you guys are going to carve into your projects, you want to do it when it's leather hard. Okay. 4th one is bone dry. It's clay that's dried out and ready to fire in the kiln. This stage has no flexibility and it's very, very fragile. Okay, so that's what happens to students if they pick up their project by the handle. Okay. Stage 5 is bisque. That's clay that's been fired once. Okay. It'll be rock hard and permanent. However, it's not waterproof. It's actually like a sponge. If you were to put a microscope on it, it would look like a really hard sponge. Okay. And then the last one, it should be stage 6. Okay, is glazeware. That's clay fired in the kiln the second time with a coat of glaze. It gives the surface a shiny, smooth texture like glass, and now it is waterproof. Okay. Again, it doesn't have to be shiny. I do have some glazes that are matte or metallic. So just to consider that as we and a shot, okay? All right, so those are our 6 stages. You are going to get assessed on those 6 stages and what happens at each stage, so make sure you know the differences between those. And now let's move on to talking about our project. So in order to do our ceramic assignment, we are going to be going and opening up Google Classroom. So I'm going to have you guys open up your Chromebooks, shift over to Google Classroom. And inside Google Classroom is that weekly agenda document. And after you have that document open up, again, you're going to have to scroll all the way down to February. And right here on February 22nd, Tuesday, we've gone through now and we've done the clay notes in the handout, we've done the presentation, but now number 4 says investigate how to build with clay using the ceramics choice board. When you click on this ceramics choice board, it's going to take you to a document, but let me explain a little clearer what I'm going to do for you here and for the rest of the hour. Okay, so for the rest of the hour, I realize that for some of you, you need the option to be able to go explore clay to get ideas for maybe what you think you want to do. But others of you need to know, like, Mrs. Hauser, what are you expecting me to do? What is the assignment? Give me the specific details. What do I need to be looking for? So I want to give you those 2 things, okay? And then I'm going to let you work for the rest of the hour, okay? So the first one is this ceramics choice board. When we click into that, that's like for those students that just want to see like a lot of different things, a lot of different options to be able to learn from. Okay, so when we click on that and we open it up, what it is it's like a picture clickable document. So these are the ceramics demo choice board. Here are all the different techniques that I've just now covered with you. And then they have pictures that go with them. And unfortunately, my picture is still loading here. Okay, but if I wanted to do like a coil project, maybe like this one, I could click on it. Okay, hopefully I can click on them. Okay, and they should have a link attached to them. Okay, so that it'll take you to Pinterest. So if I want to do this mug, I could click on that link. And it's just a very fast, like 1-minute video how you would potentially create that project. Okay, so I wanted to make them very short, fast, quick videos so that you could look through them a little bit. And that way, again, all of you are going to be making a different style of project. There is only one of me and about 20 some of you, right? So I need you to do the research behind your project. I need you to investigate, how are you going to build it? How are you going to make it? So that when you come to class Thursday, you can just get started and be like, yep, this is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm starting. So that our clay doesn't dry out and get rock hard. And then suddenly we can't use it anymore, right? Or we have to like wait a day and let it soak in water so that it's moldable again. Okay, so this is the plan work that we're going to do today and tomorrow. Okay, so this is what this choice board is for. For those of you that need to dream big and you want to go out, the pictures will show you the end result. So if you want to build slabs and you want to make kind of a mug, or you want to make this weird shaped face, okay, in wheel throwing, that shows you how to do a goblet or how to make this kind of twisty one. There's a lot of cool stuff here. And then down at the bottom, if you want to start peeking into it, there's some really cool ways that you can actually glaze your projects to just like advance it a little bit more, that are kind of fun. So you can start checking out those videos as well. So these are, again, this is like the document to help you dream big, okay? Now let's go to the document that's going to show you your assignment, okay? So in this same PowerSchool document, okay, I actually have it on the schedule for tomorrow. Okay? It says number 1 for Wednesday, it says introduce the clay project with what's in the treasure box presentation and complete the ceramic project brainstorm handout. I'm going to quickly pass out that worksheet to you here in just a moment, but I'm going to open up this presentation. You're welcome to open it up with me. Okay? And let's look at this document here. Maybe, if I can actually get mine to go. Mine does not want to. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so it says, what do I treasure? Here's your assignment. Here's your prompt. Okay. I gave you your welcome activity, which was to figure out what object you wanted to build a container for, or to start thinking about objects. So the question or your challenge is, how can I build a container out of 2 fistfuls of clay, okay, or about 2 pounds, okay, that holds something I value in it. So if you want to look at your fist, that's about how much clay you're going to get. And your task or your prompt for this assignment is, how can you build a container, and I'm going to use quotations here because it just has to be able to hold something you value. And then let's just go through a couple examples together. So this can you guys help me out? What could be the object here for this project? Okay, could be gold, could be money. Okay, and then now I want you guys to kind of share with me, what could be 2 of the construction techniques that were used to build this project? Okay, it could be slab. What else could it be? Okay, could be pinch, maybe a little bit like on this little section here, but I think that looks more like slab. What's my other one? Then you kind of like roll it out. What's that first construction method? Coil, absolutely. Okay, so we have some coils here on the top, and then we have slabs to build the sides. Okay, it's also embellished, so it has details to it. Help me out with this one. What could be the object? Okay, it could be goldfish, could be what else? It could be money. It could be even like a soap bar. Some, those of you that really value hygiene, okay, it could be where you put your soap. Okay, and then help me out. What are the 2 construction methods that we maybe see? Okay, definitely coil, right? And then what could maybe the fish be made out of? Either free form or slab, right? They kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Okay, so class, based on the fact that I keep asking you about 2 construction methods, how many construction methods do you suppose you have to use for your project? 2. You are required to use 2. Okay, and we'll go over the rubric here in just a minute. Help me out with this one. What could be the object? This one's kind of tricky.
Cards.
Could be cards. Could be a Valentine's Day box. Okay, if you really value the Valentine's. Hey, I think about this like light. Okay, I think light is super valuable. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do things at nighttime, right? Okay, so light could be an option for you. Okay, the only one that I will not accept is air. Okay, for the object. Okay, but help me out. What are the construction techniques that we see here? Okay, a little bit of freeform. I would take that. Okay, for maybe the leaf up here.
And slab.
But we have slab, and then we even have coils here for some of these little added decorative details, right? We definitely have some carving going on as well. Okay, so let's talk about this one just a little bit. Okay, the object could be what? Money, right? It has a little money slot on the top. Okay, the construction here, what's the construction method? Definitely slab. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys it probably has a second one of coil on the seams on the inside of the box, because you guys will get to see that tomorrow. That's how you build a box. Okay, but what I am going to tell you is this is a very basic knowledge construction, meaning that it doesn't have a lot of decorative detail in the pre-work before glazing. So this would only for construction be about a 2 level, okay, a C. This is something that you should be able to do by 5th or 6th grade, is to make a box. Okay. So construction-wise, it's only about a C, but glaze-wise, okay, because you're going to get 2 grades, one for construction, one for glazing, it's actually almost like a 4, okay? The fact that they got their glaze so precise and painted on there, glaze actually has the tendency to run just a little bit because it's like melted glass, and the fact that they got it to be so precise is like a 4 level. Okay, so I want you guys to consider that as you're glazing, that's a separate grade from your construction grade, okay? So moving on to this next one, what could be the object?
Bird.
Could be like bird feeder or animal feeder, right? And then my construction techniques would be coil and freeform or slab, right? For these different decorative pieces, right? So it's not necessarily super complex, but it looks super complex when you put the pieces together, right? Okay, with this one, I share this one mainly because some students talk to me all the time. They want to have a latch on their project. Okay, this little wire piece, that it would be something that you could add at the end, but you could plan it into your project. We would cook it, get it all the way through both firings, and then you would attach it at the very end to have a latch on your project if that's something you wanted to add, okay? I've had students build, you guys just got done doing toilet paper sculptures. A lot of students made pancakes, okay? But maybe you want to build a container that's like your food container, the cookie jar, right? Okay? I love this one. This one just makes me smile. Okay, this is why I say container that holds something, because technically, is this a container? Yes. Okay, this I would count as a container. And does it technically hold something? Yes, okay, and something pretty valuable. I feel like if you guys didn't brush your teeth in the morning, it'd be really smelly in here, right? Okay, so you can make something kind of fun and unique, and it doesn't have to be beautiful, pretty, and perfect, right? These are kind of weird one-off creatures. Okay, this is another fun one that I think. Okay, plants give us what do we need? Oxygen. So maybe you really value oxygen. Okay, so this would be one way you could work around it in the sense of I'm going to make a little planter, okay, for my plants that I value. Okay, here's just some more ideas. A hide a key, maybe. Okay, this could be another hide a key. This one's really cool in the sense of think about like making a faux texture. So this is actually made out of ceramic and clay, but it looks like wood. Okay, I had a student one year actually make a wood treasure chest, and it was super cool. It was like had a latch and everything. So consider that. I had one kid make the mystery machine, but made it like look like wood. So that was kind of cool. This is definitely two construction techniques. Not perfect across the top, but very unique. Hey, this one looks super complex, but I'm going to give you guys a little tip here. What they did is they took a little fondant mold that already has the leaves, pre-molded for it. They took the clay, they pressed it into the pre-fondant mold, they pulled it out, cut out the little leaf shape, and then they stuck it all together. So now it looks like they did a lot of work, but really how difficult is it to press clay into a mold and take it out and attach it, right? So think about that. I do have some molds that you could use. When it comes to lids, I share this one because ceramic lids actually slide off if you make them flat. So you need some sort of stopper to keep the lid on. So maybe you want to design the lid so that it actually has a natural stopper or a natural direction that it has to sit on the project. Okay, so think about how you want to cut that. Same kind of concept here, and then maybe adding footers. Maybe your project needs a little footer to it. Hey, this one's kind of fun. This is a pinch pot, right? Hey, plus freeform, and it's a candy dish. Hey, maybe you really value candy. Hey, maybe it's something like this. You really like yarn and knitting and you want to be weird about it, okay? This one is kind of that same concept. They basically made a bunch of leaves, drape mold leaves, and then now they're putting them together, okay? Some more ideas for you. Okay, I just wanted to put a bunch of them in here, okay? I would just caution you with things like this. This turtle, they had to definitely poke holes into it. If your clay starts to get thicker than an inch, there's a higher probability for it to explode, and honestly, it's almost like half an inch. If it starts to get thicker than that, you need to poke some holes in it so the air can get out, okay? Things like this, okay? Really cool concept, really cool box. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that in the kiln, your project's gonna shrink just a tiny bit, so we wanna make sure that all the pieces dry together in the same size, so when I go to stick it in the kiln, they can all like shrink together in the same size. So for some of you, like I see it all the time with students with lids, okay? I may tell you to leave the lid off for a day to let it dry, but then I'll tell you to put the lid back on the base of the project so that the base and the lid can dry and shrink together. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so lots of ideas for you guys to think about, okay? So now today's assignment, I actually broke it down into a worksheet. So I'm gonna pass your worksheet out to you now, okay? And then I'm gonna let you, it looks like so, okay? And then on the back side is your rubric. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go at the pace that you need. We are going to use class time tomorrow. In order for you to get your clay on Thursday, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start checking this worksheet. Okay, as long as it is 100% complete, then you will get your clay on Thursday and you can start building your project. Okay, so let's go over this worksheet together here and then we'll get started.